Welcome and thank you for listening to the Muses of the Crystal Lotus.
Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of Muses of the Crystal Lotus. We hope you enjoy our little conversation today. We're going to be talking about the little things.
The little things.
I'm Shauna,
And
owner
not
of
just
Crystal
us.
Lotus Shop.
I'm Tina. I'm the Reiki Master here.
And I'm Stephanie with Rediscover Health.
Okay, one of the things that we're going to talk about today is the little things that make us happy. What makes you happy, Tina?
Sleeping in.
Oh gosh.
Which I don't
think
normally
that makes
do.
everybody
Yes.
happy.
But that normally does not happen. So I don't get that much. But it'd be nice if that happened.
Well,
Sleep
what
is-
else?
Sleep is good.
My jewelry. And my Reiki.
I knew it.
My Reiki always makes me happy.
I knew it. We said yesterday, I was like, I wonder if we can pry anything out of Tina besides jewelry.
Well, it's something
Or
I really
Reiki.
enjoy.
Or Reiki, right.
That's really about it. Well, no, but I also enjoy cross stitch. I mean, it's not the printed kind. I can't stand that. I like to do my own counting, and that way I don't have to stay within any lines. I'm not. If I want to change a color, I can.
Now,
You know.
cross stitch is the
little
just
X's.
where you just go and
Right.
X and X and.
And X and X.
And
I
X
used
and
to
X and
cross
X.
stitch with my grandmother when I was little.
Me too.
She
I didn't.
actually
Okay.
somewhere. Now that you think about it, there's somewhere there's this cute little cross stitch picture of a little girl, and it's got my name under it.
Mm.
And I just remembered that, like it's something she made for me,
Mhm.
and I don't have any idea where it's at. And I need to find it now. That's gonna be my next mission. Is to find where
Try
I
to
like-
glass
I like-
upside down on the table and say, okay, I need to find this, and walk away and forget it, and it'll pop right in your head.
Well, I don't know that it's gonna be at my house. My mom.
That doesn't
might still
matter.
have
It would tell you where it's at.
I'm gonna have to text mom after this.
I liked cross stitch so much when I was a child that my daughter actually had to reteach me how to do it as an adult.
Really? Okay, wait.
And
Was that sarcasm or
I think
because-
it
No,
was.
that was, I did not like doing it. It was too tedious.
That's what
That's
it's
what-
not. That is sarcasm.
Gotcha.
The liking
I was
it
like,
part.
I was like, wait a minute, that makes no sense. How do you like it so
I
much?
didn't like,
She likes to
it
sew,
was too slow.
but it's not that. But it's methodical. You know, you follow and you're counting and doing like X's all the way down, then you go back up. It's like you're thinking about it, but you're not thinking about it. Does that make any sense?
That's how I work with crochet.
Yeah. No.
Now,
I like crochet because it's fast.
I remember
No.
my mom used to do those rug things, with the hook.
Latch
Latch
hooks.
hooks. I've done
I
that
did
too.
those too.
Oh, she was addicted to those. She would do we all of like the Looney Tune characters and the Disney characters, Pluto, your favorite Marvin the Martian. I'm
Oh
pretty
my
sure
God.
she did one of those.
He's the man, though. Let me tell you.
I did latch hook for about 3 years and then
I'll be
got bored
honest.
with it, so I started doing macrame. Frank and I used to do macrame together.
What's macrame?
It's with the
Macrame
knotted,
is the
the
knotted
knotted ropes.
things, and you make the hangers out of them, or
or not just hangers. You can make
Wall.
anything.
decorations.
So that's the things that look like
Knots.
like the
Knots.
knots and the yarn, and
Mm-hmm.
most commonly you see the flower pot hangers.
That's
That's
planters.
planters.
I didn't know you could do that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, girl.
One of the ones we've been talking about doing is probably about maybe 6 or 8 feet wide and about 6 feet tall,
Yeah.
with little baskets, holes in them, where we can put baby plants in it and use it against the back
spiders.
wall on the deck.
You see that face, right?
I see that face.
Uh-huh.
Can you
You
smell
see the
the
little
brain
wheels
wheels
are
turning?
turning, yes.
I'm like, okay, I've got an empty wall in my office.
But she's got a lot of little baby spider plants.
Macrame is not difficult.
No.
It really isn't.
So you can teach me.
I can teach you. You can.
You have the patience for that?
If David has the patience for it, it's really fun to do it together.
Me
because it
and
goes a little
patience?
faster. And
Yeah.
when Frank and I do it, it's our time, which is one of the little things I like. It's just being able to spend time with him. We're not talking about bills or what has to be fixed in the house or either of our businesses. We just work to put it together. And when it's done, he'll cut me a nice big flat circle to set in it, and we put plants latches in them. And
Oh
stuff.
wow.
Now the thing about with the latch hooking there, to go back to that, what I like doing it, but what I hated was turning the ends under, finishing the ends. That drove me nuts. That just.
I have no idea anything about it. I've never done it. I just know my mom used to do it all the time.
See, I never turned the ends under.
What'd you do with the flat edges that was around it then?
Oh, you're talking about the actual screen.
Yeah, when you're done with the
Oh,
latch hooking and you got
waxing.
all the extra on the edges,
Yeah.
you need to fold them under and sew them down. I did not like doing
See,
that
I
part.
never did mine that way.
I don't think mom did that either.
No, I bought blanket binding and just sewed it around it.
I think she just
Still
left it the
sewing,
way it
though.
was.
Yeah,
That's my
But
thing. I don't
it's a
like
heck
to
of a
sew.
lot faster than folding it down and sitting there with the baby stitches.
Yeah.
I think
It
mom
is.
just left it the way it was.
What you
with the rug, like, you know, they were loose and flowy looking around the edges.
Yeah.
they were net.
Well,
how-
but the yarn itself that you use, where it sticks out and it's like soft and flowy, she would cut, I think, the square of the net backing to where it would just hide
Lay over
behind.
Because I'm saying, because you had to finish the edge somehow.
And I think she just cut it.
We've got all kinds of handcrafts and stuff that we do. That, you know, competitions between grandparents of what a young woman should know.
Oh, please.
And so we had tapestry, we had cross stitch, we had embroidery, we had lace tatting,
I don't know
we
any of
had
that.
crochet, we had knitting,
Crochet, I can make a straight line.
sewing with the sewing machine.
But you know, you can make a square in the crocheting. Mine ended up being a triangle because I always seem to be dropping a stitch on the
Now,
ends.
crochet's the thing with the long needles, right? The long
crochet
hooks.
has
One hook.
the one hook
The two are
about
is
so
knitting.
long.
Okay.
Knitting has the two long hooks.
Okay.
My
See.
son can knit, but I can't.
My mom all used to do all that. She was the crafty, like she would make the little, like your crocheted pot holders that you set your hot pots on, and
I still do that.
she would make things out of like watered milk jugs, you know, milk jug crafts and things like that. She just did everything. She had a whole room that was nothing but craft supplies, and I can remember her teaching me how to do cross stitch, and she would sit with me and I would do knitting with the two needles, and she would show me all kinds of things when I was so young. I don't remember any of that now, like how to do any of it.
I like the crochet more than the knitting because for me crochet is faster, and I like the great big needle that you wrap 3 or 4 times, and it makes these beautiful lacy afghans, just ripple afghans.
I think they're so pretty.
They're gorgeous.
And I'd love to, you know, something I'd really love to learn how to do?
I'm just not good at it.
Make clothes.
Making clothes is no different than making your
Eye masks.
masks.
You just need a sewing machine that works.
There you go.
It helps if you have a sewing machine that works.
Well, I just
But it's-
remember me trying to sew when I was younger. My first time in home ec class, the teacher, her first year, she decided we're going to make nightgowns. Okay, I sewed the back to the front of mine. Okay, I mean, so I just wasn't very good at that.
My aunt told me a story. Because my mama, she was the artsy woman. And so my aunt would tell me there was one time in home ec class that they were making aprons.
Mm-hmm.
And my aunt hates to sew. Like, she does little knits and crafty things. She loves to color. You know, she's still got that crafty bone in her body, but she hated to sew.
Me too.
And so in high school, she made this apron, and the teacher gave her a C. And she brought it home and showed Mama, and Mama threw a fit. Mama said, "That is not an apron. That is not acceptable," and made her take it, went with her to the school, and said, "You fail my daughter until she creates an apron that is worthy of a good grade." And so she had to do that apron again because my mama made her do it again.
Well, mine was the
That's
flip
fun.
side of that because my mother taught me how to sew. I started sewing when I was maybe 6 years old.
Barbie clothes
Little-
too.
Little hand crank Singer sewing machine, so maybe this big. And I started making Barbie doll clothes for my friends, making a little
Wow.
extra money, probably 3rd grade.
Really?
And when I got into high school, home economics was required.
Mm-hmm.
You had to take the home ec class.
Yeah.
And they had us making an apron. And I kind of looked at it and I was like, okay. And I had it finished in about 15 minutes because it's all straight sewing.
Exactly.
And the teacher failed me
Why?
because I could not possibly have done that properly so fast.
Really?
Well, that's
I
teachers'
failed
arrogance,
home
though. I mean,
economics because I already knew how to sew. But it pissed her off that I could do it so fast.
That's terrible.
but no,
though.
that's the way it was.
Yeah.
Boys could not take home ec.
Not
Girls
at all.
could not take shop. I mean, it was so segregated. It was pathetic, and I hated that.
Yeah.
I still hate cooking, but I still try. So, you know.
See, we had a
I think
it's
like
my
that.
teachers.
That was another reason she failed me was because I could cook already.
We didn't. I think my generation in middle school was like one of the last that had home ec class, but it wasn't. I never took the sewing portion of it. I took cooking, so we would bake like peanut butter cookies in these little ovens in the middle school. It was really
Oh,
cute.
I got a peanut butter cookie recipe for you.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
I love peanut butter
Simple,
cookies.
simple, simple.
But you know I can't.
1 cup of peanut butter, 1 cup of sugar,
One
1
cup
egg.
of- 1 egg.
Mix it all together. You make it into little patties and you put it on the pan.
Mm-hmm.
Squish it down with a fork. A little bit of sugar on top. And you bake it at 350 for about 6 to 8 minutes. And they're just gooey and
No flour,
no
no vanilla
flour,
extract.
no nothing. It's just peanut butter, sugar, and an egg.
You know what's really funny though? It just reminds me when
They
we
are
were
so good.
growing up, and our mom would teach us to cook. I'm the oldest of 5, plus we raised 2 of our cousins with us, so there were 6 girls, 1 boy. He hated it. He said he can never get the bathroom or the phone. And that was way before cell phone days, okay? So imagine that.
Yeah.
And understandably, it was the truth.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I don't doubt that in the least.
Now, see, in my family, we had 4 bathrooms in our house,
Mm-mm.
but we had 9
One.
kids. So it didn't matter whether you were a he or she, you still had to wait.
But that was so funny. I still remember him saying that. But Mom would try to teach us to cook. I remember one of my sisters was boiling an egg, but guess what? She put it in a glass bowl on the stove. Can you imagine what happened?
Oh my.
Everywhere. And then I had another sister who was baking cookies. When she was done, we had to throw the batch away because she used salt instead of sugar.
Mm.
So, hey, the trials and tribulations of learning to cook.
Maybe if she added some caramel to it, then it would have been good.
Me and
That
my
was so funny though.
me and my stepsister, we love to cook too, and so we would always do this thing at my dad's where we would want to cook my dad and her mom dinners. Like we were chefs and they were having date night, and so we would come up with these recipes and we would make them dinner. Well, one time we found this coffee cake. Okay, well, we read the instructions and I swear we did it right, but we put the coffee grounds in the cake because it didn't necessarily say to not use the coffee grounds.
Mm.
But we were not old enough to know that coffee grounds, you make the coffee and then you use the coffee.
Yeah.
So we used the coffee grounds instead of the coffee. And so it was coffee ground cake.
And
I'll
this
never
is
forget
how
that
mud
either.
pies came about.
I mean, yeah.
But it is funny the things you could. Now, when we were, like I said, there was so many of us. Mom would be fixing. She would start all the time to show us how to fix different things. I always kind of envied because she would throw in a pinch of this, a handful of that, this and that, and it'd come out great. I can't do that to this day, okay? But she would finally get closer to time, and she knew it was about time for it. She finally said, "Everybody out of the kitchen." So guess what? I don't really know how to do a lot of things, but I am trying to learn. But yeah,
Well, maybe here at the shop
Here I am
we'll
at
start
59
doing
years
a cooking
old.
class.
Oh, wait, I think we do have a cooking class.
We do, but
What
it's
do you
not
have?
like basic stuff.
No. Well, but it may not be basic stuff, but there's basic concepts that I teach with the class itself, like how to cut a carrot, roll cuts and specific things, and
I was
so
thinking
there's some
more
properties.
how to make the proper pot of beans and cornbread, or something simple like a healthy soup.
Well,
And they get to eat too.
they do get to eat. That's the fun
I'm
thing
always
about
up
the
for
cooking class.
eating,
is
guys.
There's always
okay?
eating.
I'm always down.
There's sampling, of course. Once you make something, the concept from dirt to delicious is we're taking foods that people typically frown upon or don't like.
Yes.
For example, the very first one was kale. You have to really know how to cook and make kale in a way that you can like it. There's a lot of people who don't like kale.
Yeah. I don't.
So each class takes a specific fruit, vegetable, spice, herb, something that is not common in the kitchen or people don't typically like, and then we transform that into two or three different meals or dishes that people can watch how they're made, get the recipes on how they're made, and then taste it, and then we're like, wow, this is actually okay. I had one girl in the first one that she hates kale. She hates it. But she actually walked out of there with, I want those recipes. I need to be able to duplicate this because this was delicious.
Maybe you can do a class on Brussels sprouts.
Oh my God.
I don't like Brussels sprouts.
my friend, I was thinking that is, I cannot stand Brussels. People say, oh, if you fix them the right way. Is there a right way to fix
There
Brussels
is a right
sprouts?
way
I
to fix
don't know
Brussels
about that.
sprouts. They're if you do it the right way, they'll actually taste like cabbage. And if you like cabbage, you can learn to love Brussels sprouts.
Well, I was
Learn
always
to
told
love.
when you're cooking cabbage, you have to take the core out because if you leave it in there, it makes it bitter.
Mhm.
And it's hard, and it's
Very
really hard to cook that down.
You can't,
No,
really,
so-
if you think about it.
But I like cabbage.
I do too.
So then you can learn to love Brussels sprouts.
I don't know.
I think you could.
I have some
2 to
kitty
1 on
blocks
that
when it
one.
comes to Brussels sprouts.
I'll have to make you some.
Okay.
I don't have those on the schedule. I think I've got butternut squash coming up, and then I've got one that's herbal treats, how to use herbs in the kitchen. Not basil or thyme, but I'm talking other herbs. Parsnips. Who eats parsnips?
Yummy.
Nobody really, nobody really likes parsnips or turnips, those kind of things.
Every Thanksgiving, my mom would make mashed potatoes, and she would put turnips in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I could not get it in my mouth. Just nasty. So she started making plain potatoes. Potatoes with turnips.
Yeah.
And you can eat that one, this one's mine.
Yeah. So
But, yeah.
Well, I tell you what, I might not really be great at cooking, but I am learning. And being a diabetic, I'm trying to do my own meals more often than eating out. Okay,
Yes.
I am.
And do you have special recipes for being diabetic?
It sometimes yes, but a lot of times I just look at what's in it. I know what raises my after being diabetic since I was 37, I'm now 59. I've had a few years, that I know what raises my blood sugars and what doesn't. So I tend to eat more toward the things that I know that doesn't raise my sugars greatly, to do things with that nature and try different recipes with that.
And there's food combining too that can help balance that out a little bit as
You
well.
can check your glycemic indexes for the vegetables as well,
You can.
and that helps some too.
Okay,
Especially me now, since I'm having so
so
much.
we all agree that we like cooking.
We love cooking.
We like food.
We love food.
Love food.
Not a like. That's a love. That's a passion.
That's
Yes.
one of the little
That's
things
my
that
passion
is
food.
relaxing.
Yes.
That's like the little picture I sent you yesterday that says, "Food." How is it? It said, "Medicine is a byproduct for unhealthiness. Food is healthy. Medicine is for sick regulation, sick health."
Sick care versus health care.
Yes, I was trying to remember the exact words already because I thought of you immediately when I saw that. That's why I sent it to her.
The food, the concept of food. If you think about
Could not remember.
food as a little thing, we have to eat to start with. That's something that we have to do for survival. But there's also the experience that comes with food. And one of the things that I like to talk about with people is how do they experience food? Because a lot of the times we're busy at work, scarfing down our lunch, not paying attention. We really don't even stop to say, hey, how does this taste? It's just I got to be back on the clock, eat,
Yeah.
eat. And then,
Don't eat, which is
Especially
just
on a
as bad.
half-hour
right.
lunch break.
or eating when you're stressed and overwhelmed and so forth. But
Or stress eating.
stress eating.
That is one of my bad things.
there's-
I stress eat.
so much more to the concept of food that we're missing in modern life that they had back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
Meal times without TVs or cell phones. Being able to sit down at a kitchen table
With your
with
family.
and talk about everything, about how your day was, the fun things, the laughs, the giggles, there's so much that can be taken in with the experience around food that I think is part of the reason why food right now is that pivotal point between health and not health.
Mhm.
I think that bringing back those experiences would be beneficial to everyone.
Well, I'm going to tell you a story that helps me because the way my house is set up and it's just Frank and I there right now and JT. We eat our dinner on our tray on the couch, watching TV. We talk, but it's just that's how we do it these days. When I was younger, we all the kids, and the mom and the dad, and we would sit at the table. And when my dad started working nights because he was a guard at Thompson State Prison. We were sitting there having this conversation about how things disappear. You never understand how things disappear. And it started out as just my mom ranting because somebody had taken the spare tire out of the back of the truck. And poor Tubi the tire. Because nobody knows where Tubi is. Tubi might be injured. Tubi might be getting used. And my mother was an artist. And while we're sitting there, everybody putting in their little pieces of this whole thing, my mother's drawing little pictures. And we did this whole cartoon of poor Tubi the tire. That when the truck stole him, hit a bump, he jumped out of the back of the truck and started rolling down the road, but he didn't know which direction to go in. So he ended up laying on his side in the ditch.
Aww.
And
Poor
then
Tubi.
it rained, and the rain helped stand him up, and he started rolling the wrong way. And somebody saw him and picked him up and took him on another. And this whole big story, it's like a 3-page cartoon strip
Aww.
about what happened to Tubi. And in the end, finally, the police found Tubi on the side of the road and brought him back home. So it was a happy ending.
That's a bonding experience.
It is a bonding experience, but having dinner with your family instead of everybody being here and here and here and here with the cell phones going all the time.
Oh gosh, the cell phones.
It makes such a difference in the bonding,
Yes.
in how much you learn about each other,
Mm-hmm.
how much you can pick out of who is in a good mood, who's not in a good mood, what's on their mind. And I remember that so clearly.
Yeah.
Because all of us were sitting around this huge table, laughing our rear ends off,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody putting in their own little things, about the jack that tried to take Tubi. Yeah, he thought Tubi was a she. Tubi was a he. But he tried to convince him to go with him anyway. He was lonely.
Oh.
So, but anyway, little things.
Little things.
Little things that just give you joy that you can look back on and say, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
And it was hysterical.
See, me and our bonding experience between me and David, my husband, we don't watch TV. We don't have cable, so we don't watch TV and eat. We
Harry
usually
Potter?
do sit. Well, that's different. We don't
I
sit.
throw
Okay,
that-
sorry. We don't eat and watch TV. And
Okay.
when we do sit at the table, we don't have our cell phones out. We're sitting and talking. But what we love to do is go for a walk.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the best little things I think that we share is we call it our brainstorming sessions, because when we get going. And it's not a fast walk. It's just a slow and steady walk around the neighborhood. But we talk about the day. We talk about our plans. We talk about our goals and our dreams and what we'd like to do and how we can get there. And by the time we come back to the house, we've just like made out this whole beautiful step-by-step action plan on how we're going to accomplish our next step in life, just because we had the time together to go for that walk.
Not because you had the time, because you made
We made the time.
the time.
Yes. That's
And
like something
that's
we
a big difference.
staple is we make that time to go for a walk.
You
That's
don't
our time together.
you don't spend time together because you have to.
Right.
You spend time together because you want to.
Yes.
And a lot of people have forgotten that.
Mm-hmm.
They can't put the cell phones down. They can't walk away from the TV if there's a show on they like. Well, the show will probably be back on again. Don't worry about it. Repeats, syndication.
I love seeing when we in our little neighborhood. There's families, kids on bikes, and the moms will be walking and pushing strollers and having conversations with friends, and the kids are just circling with their bikes. And we took our walk the other evening, and we were going down this road, and David pointed and he said, "Well, that's a forgotten memory." And there were bikes on the side of the road just like crashed down in the yard where you could tell like all the kids just went to the neighbor's house and they parked their bikes outside and ran inside. And it's just those little things that just make you so happy.
I tell you something that I found in the last couple of years that I found that I have really enjoyed is canning.
Canning.
I decided I was going to start canning, and I think I canned. I now have 2 dehydrators, 2 water bath canners, and 2 regular canners, and I have over 300 jars of different things. I have
You're not starved.
No, that's for sure. My son looks at me, "Mom, are you becoming a prepper?" Not really, son. Not that I think that I am.
I think it's a
But
being a prepper.
it's something that I
you
found I
enjoy.
really enjoyed. And of course, I get told not to do any more dehydrated marshmallows.
That's because I'll eat a whole bag by myself.
But I dehydrate everything.
I don't need all that
But
sugar.
see,
Oh my gosh, it's like candy.
my mama used to can too, and so she had that craft room I was telling you about. By her garage, she had this like cellar room that was the cement walls, and it was real dark, and that's where she kept all of our canned food. I am petrified of eating canned food.
Why?
No.
Of canned food that I canned
Why?
because I'm afraid of botulism.
Well, okay. My boyfriend, okay?
I mean, you want me to be honest? Like, I have this thing in my head, like this mental block when I can food, because I've got the water bath and everything else. But for some reason, when I let it sit in my cabinet for anything longer than 6 months, I am afraid.
As long as you tap the top,
I know. I'm just
as long as it's still sealed, it's still
good.
good.
I'm
For years
just.
even.
I made tomatoes 2 years ago, and I made tomato sauce, like pasta sauce,
I want to do that.
and I
haven't done it
canned
yet.
them both.
There's one thing I haven't done.
And I pulled them out of the cabinet earlier this year. Actually, I think it was during quarantine, and they were still sealed. But in my mind, because they've been in that cabinet for 2 years, I poured them out. I got rid of them. I really did, and that's just something of me. That's my own mental thing. And that's why I don't can my beans. I have to flash freeze my beans, and I keep them in the freezer, the deep freezer.
I don't have enough room in my freezer. My freezer is like a little tiny box. I don't have enough room to store anything.
I do a lot of freezing, but I also do canning when I can. I like doing jams.
Oh,
So we did that one year.
I
We
actually
did that.
got a thing of fresh strawberries, and I did that. Well, I made a mistake I had 2 recipes I was debating between, so I decided on one, but I cut everything up as if I was doing it for the other one. So when everything was done, it actually come out to be more of a strawberry syrup with like little pieces of strawberry in it. Still good. So I gave my
That would be
boyfriend
good over
one.
pancakes.
Oh, that's
Oh,
exactly
yes.
what he said. That's exactly what he said. I gave one to my boyfriend, and he's like, okay. He told me later, he says, Tina, he said, I actually went to try it. He goes, I took a little knife and stuck it in and took a bite just to see what it tastes like. He goes, after about almost halfway through the jar, he goes, I'm going to run out of this if I don't. So he says, whatever you did, do it again. This is excellent. And he pours it over waffles, pancakes, just biscuits, just anything.
Yeah, we used to go blackberry.
He said, those
picking.
are mine, and you can't give those away to anybody else.
Yeah.
So
We used
I'm
to
like,
go
yes.
blackberry picking, and that was also another thing that me and my husband did a lot. We would just get bundled up in our jeans and long sleeves and boots and hats and ticks, make sure
I
we
hate
were
ticks.
staying away from the bugs and the snakes. And we'd go out in the woods and spend hours sweating, just getting scratched from the thorns, picking blackberries, and we'd come home and we'd make jam and we'd give it away to all our friends. I never kept any of it, and the ones that I did keep, guess what? I threw them away because I'm afraid of them. I can't stand it,
we
but
used to
it's
go
just
out
something
in our
I've got going
backyard
on.
and climb up the mulberry tree
Oh.
and pick mulberries. And, we each had our little basket. We had to fill the basket. And it never failed out of the 4 kids at that time that were doing this. They might have gotten 2 baskets because the rest of it was just purple everywhere.
Aww.
I believe it.
We'd sit in that tree and just handfuls.
Now, have you ever tried those little wine berries? They grow. When they grow, they've got this pod that's almost looks like a teardrop, and it's fuzzy around the pod. And in the house we used to live at, there was a bunch of them growing, and my husband's dad picked one off and stuck it in his mouth at one of our family events, and my dad's like, what is that? And he told him it was the wine berries. So Dad found a patch down where he lives, and every year now, he goes out and he gets in those woods and he picks those wine berries, and they almost look like raspberries because they're that round shape and they're red, but they're called wine berries. And Dad'll pick just bunches of them, and he loves them. And that's just something we like to do, is just to go out in the woods and pick berries and find. I want to find an elderberry tree. I have not found one around here, but I want to get elderberries so that I can actually make fresh elderberry jam or jam and syrup whenever I do it instead of buying the dried.
I don't think there's even any elderberries up by me.
They're hard to find.
You should ask Jeannie when she comes back. Her grandma's place might have some.
That's true.
But now's the time of year to get them because they should be ready to go, or at
Her
least
grandma's
close to.
place is what, up in Pocahontas County, right?
Something like that.
Yeah. I thought I found one time, but I never went back to in the later season to really explore and see. But you have to be careful when looking for elderberries because there's a bush that is very similar that's poisonous, and those are called pokeberries.
I know what pokeberries are.
Yeah, and they've got that pink stalk that grows, and they're just it's a big old bush, but they almost look, the way they grow on the bush itself, almost looks identical to elderberries. So you have to be careful when you're looking for them, not to get confused.
Yeah, but
That's what
part of the
reminds
fun
me.
of going through looking for them.
I have
True.
a friend
Yeah.
whose wife, he told me a story about what his wife did when she was younger. She actually went and she picked the pokeberries. And then she crushed them up and put little jars and put poison for sale. And sold little jars of poison to people.
Oh my!
And he said she was probably about 8, maybe. He said, but I'm like, oh wow.
Oh my God.
I don't know if anyone ever bought it, but I thought that was hilarious. He goes, I could steal. She told me that story. He goes, and I have never forgot that she used to sell little bottles of poison of pokeberries.
That's hilarious.
when Frank and I moved
He said, I don't know if she ever sold
Kenna,
it.
my daughter, the
I
sense of
know.
humor my daughter has.
Mm-hmm.
And she was helping me pack up the house. And here's this big box sitting in the kitchen full of all my spices, my herbs. Everything got put in the same box so I'd know where it was. She sealed up the box and wrote right on the top of the box, Eye of Newt, Bat Wing. I mean, just all this crazy stuff. And it's like, why are you putting this on the box?
Well, so I make bone broth every fall. So every time I buy a rotisserie chicken, and I debone it, and I keep the bones in the freezer until I've got about 4 pounds of bones. So every time I pull out all the bones and stick them in the pot, and I fill it up with the water and the vegetables and everything. I'll keep vegetable peels, carrot peels, just about everything. Scraps you can throw in there. And that's what David does. He goes, you go put a little eye of nude in there. I'm like, whatever. It's just bones, you know? It makes really good broth.
Yeah. She had written probably 6 different things on there. What was it? Toad's feet was one of them.
Yeah. He tripped when I used chicken feet in my bone broth. But chicken feet's got really good collagen in it.
Yeah.
That's how you get that nice gelatinous bone broth.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get it that nice jelly-like, when it cools down, that's when you know that you got a real rich broth.
Mm-hmm.
But the key is chicken feet.
And wash them first.
Wash them first.
Wash everything first.
But you can hardly find chicken feet. I mean, that's not something that you come across readily available. So
you must have to go to a butcher shop or something.
That's where I had to go to get some. But so he really tripped out when he used chicken feet. I can understand. It's like, it's it's the little things.
It's the little things. Frank used to laugh at me all the time because I would talk to food as I was cooking it. And
I can't say that's something I've ever done.
well, okay, you're
I'm
very
not saying
you're a very
anything.
pretty mushroom. I'm sorry, but I have to take your butt off.
Okay. You're a lot nicer than me.
You're
I
gonna
cuss at
You're
some of
gonna
it,
you're
but it
gonna
makes
well,
me
I'm
mad.
watching my mouth.
If there's no one
I'm
around
gonna
me, I don't
dice
watch
you
it.
up, and I'm gonna put you in the pot, and it's only gonna hurt for a minute. And just goofy stuff. But I've always done that, and I don't know where it came from or why.
It's hilarious.
But he'd stand behind me listening to me and just giggle away. And it's like, okay, I used to do a lot of cooking for my family growing up. And I never learned how to make small portions.
Oh,
that's
no,
something
me
I can't
either. What I do know how to do, I don't
feed
know
an
how to
army.
make it. I make a crock. Okay, if I make beef vegetable soup, let me tell you, it's not a little. It is a
Every
pot
time.
about this big,
Every
that
time.
big around. I mean, it's
Every
a
time.
huge pot. I end up canning the leftovers, so
Just
I
stick
have
it
it
in
for
the
later.
Well, when you're used to
I
cooking
don't have
for
that big freezer.
10 people or more, because our house was the teen hangout. And then you go into a marriage and it's just the two of you. It's like, I don't know how to cook this.
I don't know how to do small portions.
Well,
yeah.
It's for some reason, like, I read a recipe and I'm like, okay, I got this. I understand. And I go buy all of the things for the recipe and I'm like, well, I'm going to eat this. Because it's right now it's only me and my husband. So I'm going to, and he doesn't eat the food I eat. It's only me. Really, I'm cooking for only me. So I'm like,
Lately
okay.
you've been cooking for us and we appreciate it. I'll have you know.
Well, I usually say, okay,
Good food, too.
Oh my God.
I know the recipe and I'm going to eat this 3 days this week, maybe 4, because, I'm so busy. I'm going to just batch prep and be done with it.
Mm.
And so I might get a little extra because I want to make sure I have enough to last me all those different meals. And so then I get in there and I start cooking and next thing you know, I'm like having to change pots because the recipe calls for this size and for some reason I'm overflowing. Like the stir fry I brought in. That big old bowl in the fridge started off with just a few ingredients, I swear, and for some reason it came out a whole wok full of stuff.
Yeah.
The increase, the little salt, see here, increase, okay?
It
Double
just
the portions.
happens. It just happens. I don't know how, but it always happens that way. I make so much every time.
And then you sit there and you giggle and you say, we're going to be eating this the rest of the week. And you know what? I never had any problem with any of it.
If it's good, you don't.
The sauteed purple cabbage, I think that's one of my new favorite side dishes.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, that is so
I'm
good.
glad you liked it. It
That
was
is
super
so
easy.
good.
It was just purple cabbage. It was just a little head of purple cabbage sliced up in your little thins like you would normal cabbage. And I took the skillet that I had and I put butter in it.
Of course.
You have grass-fed, real butter where the only ingredient is cream, like butter.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I don't like margarines or anything like that. I want the real
I use
stuff.
both.
That's it. And I melted it down,
I used to.
added the cabbage in, tossed it up to where the butter covered the cabbage. Over medium heat, put the lid on it, maybe about 3 or 4 minutes. Took the lid off. I added a little bit of Bragg's liquid aminos, which is like the soy sauce replacement. So you still have that nice flavor to it, the soy sauce flavor, but it's not
Salty?
It's not too. No, it wasn't
No,
terribly
it's
salty.
not.
It's not real bad.
That's
maybe
what I
a
said. It's not salty.
Yeah, maybe like a tablespoon of that, and tossed it up just enough to where you get the little flavor. And then as soon as it's that nice bright purple color, I take it off the heat and let it sit, and that's it. It was literally 5-6 minutes to make.
I don't know, but it sure was good. You have to try it sometime.
And purple cabbage is rich in anthocyanins, which are really good for inflammation and for it's a powerful antioxidant that helps with heart health. So, just
This is
little
one of
tidbits
the
there.
little things that I like, because any conversation about food ends up with a history and what's in it and what it can do for you.
Plus, you got a little recipes along the way.
you
you
just
get
got a little
recipes.
recipe. Yes.
But this is one of the little things that I love, because I've been cooking all my life, pretty much, and never paid much attention to what I was cooking. Just, I knew I needed these ingredients, it would make this much food, and I'd cook it. I love cooking.
Right.
But I never paid much attention to how much salt or half of those words you come up with.
Sprinkle until the ancestors tell you to stop.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
I love that meme.
we used to, my grandma would tell me, my mother too, if you make it with love, you have to put a little bit of yourself into it in order for it to be good. I was like, well, how do I do that? Because, I'm not cutting off a finger. I was like, no, that ain't happening either. But it's all about your mindset.
Yeah.
If you hate cooking and
Nothing
you have
you make
to do
is
it,
gonna taste good.
nothing is going to taste as good as you
No,
want
that's
it to.
that's a big thing.
I'm
I
always
know. I
critical
believe in
of
that.
Okay, I try.
Mm.
But I thoroughly believe in if you're fighting yourself, if you're in a bad mood, if you are just angry at the world, overstressed, overworked, you really hate cooking, and you're so mad you're cooking dinner tonight, it's not going to taste good.
Yeah.
You do have to put a little love in it, and just even if it is something as simple as I'm cooking this to nourish myself.
Mhm.
That's a little love in it because you're making it for love of you, to feed you.
But even certain foods that are normally fairly bland, you can perk up with a little bit of seasoning. Scrambled
Herbs and
eggs.
spices, y'all. Herbs and spices.
Scrambled eggs. About as bland as you can get. Okay? And after talking to her, I have started using turmeric in everything.
Oh my gosh.
I
yes.
can't tell you
And
though.
I just sprinkle turmeric is really good for inflammation.
Yes.
And so I've started and turmeric adds just enough flavor to those eggs to make them something good.
Okay, I can tell you, in my email box over the last 2 weeks, I cannot tell you how many emails I've got going, don't eat turmeric, it's not good for you. And I'm like, delete, delete,
No better.
delete.
I know
Because
better.
because I'm like, what the heck are they talking about? Turmeric is good for you. What they mean is not good for your stomach.
Some
or
people
whatever.
don't like the taste of it.
If you have it with other stuff, I mean, it's not like you're eating the turmeric by itself.
There are studies that do indicate turmeric in high concentrations may have an impact on your liver,
Mm-hmm.
but that's typically like you're taking curcumin standardized extract of turmeric at 350 milligrams 5 times a day, because once we're in a state of pain. A lot of people are in chronic inflammatory pain, and they want to seek more natural options to help with that. There's a lot of things to pain. You're not going to find that one pill that you're going to take and it's going to work. But when they find something like curcumin and they hear that it's good for inflammation, they're going to take it.
They overdo it.
And if you do
Lot of people
overdo
Everything
it,
in moderation.
and if you're taking medications on top of that,
Mhm.
then that's a lot of work for your liver. That is a lot of work for your liver. And so there
But the
are
amount
things
you
that you
would
need
put
to
in
keep in
food-
mind.
The amount that you would put in food is not going to hurt you because you don't pour the whole thing in. You just,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
it's
But
good for you
okay,
in that respect.
disclaimer. If
Disclaimer.
you're going to
Oh,
start
yes.
using any kind of an herb for inflammation or anything like that and you're on medication,
Always contact your primary care
talk to
physician
your doctor.
or your pharmacist because your pharmacist knows medications a lot more. That's their job. So
Don't stop taking your medication
Nope.
to try something natural because you're not going to have good luck. You cannot go cold turkey on some medications.
nope. Always talk to your
No,
doctor.
No.
Always
That's
talk to
our
your doctor.
disclaimer.
If you're
Yep.
going to stop taking something, a lot of times you have to wean yourself off of it.
But we do know that there are a lot of herbs out there that work for inflammation. There are certain herbs that help with pain. There's herbs for making you feel better, obviously. So, you know,
There's also foods that will also cause it to flare up.
stress.
stress.
Did you know?
That's not one of the little things I like.
That's not one of the little things
No.
I like either. And the reason why is because stress will increase inflammatory biomarkers in the body.
Hmm.
Stress, perceived stress,
That explains
can
why
increase inflammation
this
in the body.
country is in so much pain all the time.
So, anyways, back to little things. So
Good
my little
things.
thing that I absolutely enjoy is string of beans. String and green beans. And my cat enjoys it too. I've never in my life seen a cat that enjoys beans. But every time I pull out that bowl of beans to sit and string
I have
them,
to say one thing.
she's sitting right there.
Just one thing.
Okay.
In all this conversation of the little things that we really like,
Yeah.
she never once mentioned her cats, even though they're
Oh, I
all
know.
over her all the time.
That's always a little thing.
Oh
It's
yeah.
the best for babies.
That's like in that chakra balancing thing. I'm sitting there doing this video. It's one of the it was the very last video I was to do. And I am sitting there and Miss Kitty decides, oh, I want attention. And you see her come up and headbutt my shoulder, go across my back. She turns around, flips, her tail comes around my throat and goes that way. And then, you know, you can see her head dip down. And what you don't see is she's actually biting my hair in the back. I mean, she was just like, all back and forth, and you know, I'm like, and I'm sitting there trying to talk and not bust up laughing, and I'm like, okay, I might have to redo this one. I decided not to. I was like, we'll leave it. It's comic relief.
Yeah.
She just comic relief, but it also has a lot to do with you were getting tense. She sensed that, and she lightened the mood for you.
Well, not so much that too, maybe, but I know that she's like, pay attention, to me now.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my gosh.
So string and beans is a bonding experience between me and my cat
Okay.
because I will pull out that bowl of beans and I have two bowls, the one with the beans in it,
The
and
one
that's
we
where I
put
leave
the-
my strings.
Mhm.
And then once I string them and snap them, I put them in
Put
the
in the
other
other
bowl. So here she is. No matter where she's at in the house, she knows when I pull them beans out, and she'll come running and she'll jump up on the couch and she'll take that paw. And every time I pick up a bean, she's like, bean. And I'm like, would you get away? And so it's just a thing every year. Whenever I'm sitting there stringing beans, that's me and my cat time because she's
Maybe
trying to
that
get the
little piece of string just fascinates her.
No, it's the bean.
It's the bean.
It's the bean. Because I will try to give her strings,
Mhm.
and she doesn't want the strings. She wants the bean. It's hilarious.
Well, you know, when your cats have
JT
something.
eats raw squash. He
Like,
likes
are
it.
you not sure they won't eat raw anything?
He loves vegetables.
JG will eat
He
this
loves
stuff.
fruit.
Yeah.
Frank and I started doing this bad thing. We have our glass of wine
He's
in
our-
the
her
evening
boxer,
out
by
on the
the way.
deck. And Frank got these really sweet grapes. I can't remember what the name of them are. They're pinkish red color.
Mm-hmm.
And so I told Frank, I said, I'm putting some of these in the wine. Well, after they've sat in the wine for about half an hour, pretty good.
Yeah.
Have you
Yeah.
had moonshine cherries?
Frank gave JT one.
Uh-oh. That's a
JT
bad
is
thing.
now addicted to wine-soaked grapes.
That's not good.
Oh, he'll sit there and just the eyes just beg and beg and beg. And Frank said, one. Gives him one. JT will eat it and he'll turn around and look at Daddy again more. Yeah, nope. I'll give him one. But that's it. That's all you get. If you want more, you have to beg it, Daddy. I'm not giving you any more of mine. And he will go over and sit in front of Frank and do that. Oh, please, please, with the drool running down. And just
dog drool. You know, puppy dog eyes.
Mm-hmm.
They had a little dog drool on me before the video.
Yeah.
A little dog
Well,
drool.
he likes to spread his glitter all over everybody before, you know. That's just his thing.
Yeah.
He
I was
loves
trying to
people.
give him a toy this morning, and he didn't want nothing to do with that toy until I pat him and paid attention to him.
That's right.
Then he took the toy and ran off with it.
Proper priorities. Say hello first, then give me the toy, then you gotta play with me.
Animals are like one of the best little things.
Yeah, they are.
You know, they're
They are.
special.
Well, it's like when you go to the bathroom. I swear to gosh, I almost said something else. By a minute, but it's like they try to see which one to get there first,
Yes.
and I'm like, guys, I'm just going to the bathroom.
Yeah. My cat she'll like to follow me into the bathroom until I close the door. And then she's like, wait, oh my gosh, why am I stuck in here? And then she paused to get out. And I'm like, well, you wanted in here. It's not my fault that you followed me in here. It's just the little things. It's the little things. We love the little things.
I like when JT is a almost 3-year-old boxer.
Mhm.
And one of the things that he does with Frank that absolutely cracks me up, I mean, just lightens my spirit no matter how bad the day's been. If Frank's not paying attention, JT will come up on the couch behind him, put his paws over Frank's shoulder, and then he's like, over on this ear, nee, nee, nee. Over on this ear, nee, nee, nee. And he tries to get Frank to wiggle him off to get him to play with him. And I sat there the other night just rolling. Because Frank's got this sensitivity on his ears. He doesn't like anybody messing with his ears.
Which
And
JT
here the dog
knows.
is chewing fleas on his ear, you know. Every time he turned his head, he'd go to the other side.
Aww.
And it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. And Frank is laughing. And JT's just like, the more Frank and I laughed,
The more he's going to do
the
it.
more he's
just
doing
like,
it.
Just like a little baby, you know, just like a kid.
But he had that, Kilroy is here, over the shoulders. He had his paws like here, from the back. And just, nee, 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 nee. Silliest thing I'd ever seen.
Yeah.
But then that dog has a sense of humor too.
Yes, he does.
He has a very, very distinct personality.
Yes, he does. That's for sure.
He makes any day better.
Well, I hope that you were able to find some giggles in this video
We
and
tend to ramble, if you have noticed.
yes, right. Maybe even some ideas of some little things that if you're not already incorporating into your daily routines that perhaps you will be able to, or even just more of an appreciation of the little things that you already have that make you light up inside, even if it's your fur babies, going for a walk, or enjoying your family dinner around a table. We're gonna call it a day, and we look forward to seeing you on our next episode. If you don't follow us already, remember you can join us on Facebook at CLSWV, also on Instagram at CLSWV, and you can check out our website at www.clswv.com.
And Jeannie will be back with us for our next episode. She took a little vacation
Family time.
Yes.
to family time.
Little things.
And she'll be back with us soon. And hopefully Tennille will be joining us at some point to just talk about whatever we're talking about.
That's right.
You guys
She's
have a
good
great
with
day.
us, too, so.
And join us again next week.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Muses of the Crystal Lotus. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Just a reminder that this podcast is for educational purposes only. This podcast is not a substitute for professional care by a doctor or other qualified medical professionals. By listening to this podcast, you agree not to use this podcast as medical advice to treat any medical condition in either yourself or others. Consult your physician with any medical issues that you may be having. This entire disclaimer also applies to any guests or contributors to the podcast. Under no circumstances shall the Crystal Lotus Shop, any guests or contributors to the podcast, be responsible for damages arising from use of this podcast. Until next time, healthy blessings.